Hello and welcome to the final in a three-part series of lectures on UAW TV as part of the Inter-Uni program. The UAW journalism program produces UAW TV, and my name is Sean Burns and I'm one of the journalism lecturers as part of that program. A former journalist who tries to do his best at being an academic. Today UAW TV will be looking at the update structure and the update is the major component of our bulletins that we produce, and the future of journalism, or at least my perspective on where the future of journalism is headed. So just a quick look at one of the updates from last year.
Hi and welcome to your UAW update for Week 10 Spring Session. I'm Meg and I'm Sarah. In this week's update, we head along to the launch of the Wave Warriors in the Illawarra. We figure out why there was some extra skins showing this week and find out what you need to know to become our next great leader. But first, if you have always wanted to know the answers to life's big questions, perhaps you should turn to mathematics. UOW has been the centre for all things maths, hosting the 55th Australian Maths Society's National Conference.
Well, this conference is the second time that the Maths Society has held its meeting at the University of Wollongong. It's the annual conference of the Society, so it's where all the mathematicians in the country come together and talk about their research.
The week-long forum including public lectures like that given by Professor Mick Roberts on how maths can help prevent viral epidemics.
I've been doing a lot of work on pandemic influenza and also seasonal influenza. And one of the most famous examples of the use of mathematics was in the UK when they had a foot and mouth outbreak in 2001. And there they used mathematics to design the control program against the foot and mouth outbreak that eventually brought it under control and eliminated foot and mouth from their farms.
With Wollongong facing its biggest job crisis to date, many people are considering moving out of town. UOW TV's Beck Fisk went to the Illawarra Careers Day to see how locals are sorting out their Plan B.
So the update is another example of how our journalists are putting theory into practice. It's about giving them responsibility. Our broadcast journalism students, as the Inter-Uni students, are given the flexibility to come up with some content ideas and to put forward, to pitch stories that they believe should go into the updates. And that in itself is an important part of being a journalist, being able to come up with the stories that you feel are important and need to be covered. It is a simple fact that our students, as they head into the final years of their degree, start to take on more responsibility. And the update, the UAW update, is a significant responsibility. It reflects broadcast news practice, and it's not necessarily into content, but definitely in the structure, in the sense that a lot of attention is paid to the production values and a lot of attention is paid to delivering content that is going to appeal to a wide or a wider audience. A standard news bulletin is broken into key sections, and this is relevant to the update as well as it is to a standard news bulletin. And not to go too far into it and not to get too technical, but a news bulletin is broken into packages, which are items that are fully produced and generally non-live. They're the items that you'll see the journalist potentially standing up at the beginning of the story or at the end, but it's a recorded item. An RVO or an LVO is where the newsreader talks over the top of pictures that are rolling, and or a live or a read, which is basically where the newsreader just stares straight down the barrel of the camera and talks with no pictures. So they're the aspects that are included, they're the items that are included in the UAW update, but they're also part of a television news bulletin every night of the week. So the challenge is there for you to identify them. UAW updates include these items. The primary focus for all these items, except potentially the live read, is the image. So we're talking video journalism, we're talking about things that show a visual medium. So pictures are all important. So, and the combination of pictures and sound in video journalism is extremely important. And then the structure of a bulletin can be dictated by the quality of these images. So, you know, pictures of a building falling down, or pictures of fire or of crisis, they lead bulletins. I mean, there's a lot of cliches around, but these are the images. But in the same breath, images of success, images of joy, for whatever reason, can also be absolutely captivating and lead bulletins. And importantly, not only lead bulletins, but potentially lead stories too. So pictures in a video journalism context are extremely important. You know, they dictate the shape of a story. Here's an example of one of those stories with some interesting pictures, very scientific-based pictures, but reasonable pictures all the same.
Hi and welcome to your UOW update for Week 5 Spring Session. I'm Sam. The accolades keep flowing for UOW, with the scientists from the Innovation Campus awarded a prestigious fellowship. Professor Gordon Wallace and his team have secured the $2.6 million Australian Laureate Fellowship for their medical bionics research.
We've been working in this area for a number of years, establishing a very sound scientific platform in order to develop conduits for nerve and muscle repair, for example. And now we'll be able to address the practical issues of building conduits to bring this closer to reality.
It's a big deal for Wollongong, with only 17 fellowships in Australia awarded this year.
For Wollongong, this is incredibly exciting. We have the people, we have the equipment, we have the infrastructure all in place. In fact, really we've no excuses. We can deliver the goods in this area, and we certainly intend to.
The New South Wales...
So, it's a story about scientists doing what scientists do. And, you know, they are cliche sort of images of the men in white coats, but that's the science image. And that wasn't a make-believe lab, that was the actuality of that story being told. So the images, although fairly predictable, were still good, strong images to help tell that story. So you need to think about that when you start to frame your stories as part of the inter-uni process, or if you start to frame your stories as a journalist beyond school or beyond university. So your UOW bulletin, well, the highlights aspects of modern journalism. It basically shows our journalists being responsible across a variety of fields. It's important that our students understand that the face of journalism is changing, the future of journalism is changing, the ability for people to sit back on their haunches and say, well, I can't learn anymore, I know everything I know, is not a luxury that's being afforded. So the digital age of journalism is reflected in our UOW update, because our students are responsible for the production of the bulletin from the start to finish. They incorporate elements of interviewing, producing, editing and presenting. Even those who don't desperately want to be in front of the camera end up finding themselves in front of the camera and presenting. In many instances, modern video journalists find themselves being in control of all these key elements. Once upon a time, you had a massive crew that would follow you around and help you do the story. Nowadays, people can operate by themselves or in very small teams. Some would argue that the age of the specialist journalist and the specialist reporter is gone, where video journalists are increasingly required to work alone and to produce work across a variety of mediums. So even if you consider yourself a video journalist, you might be filing a print item, you might also be filing an audio item for, say, an online publication. Look, and at the heart of it all, and it kind of sits at the back, but probably falls forward every now and then, are the ideas and the concepts behind the ethics and the law of journalism, the ethics that help shape a journalist, those decisions that help form the story, those decisions that those ethical decisions that make journalists say, well, should I do this? Should I follow that? Should I knock on that door? These are the questions that they ask themselves every day. And of course, the law is there, the aspects of defamation and litigation and libel, and these sort of questions are asked by journalists in every single day. Our journalists are exactly the same. Our student journalists, our UAW TV journalists need to keep in mind those aspects of defamation and, you know, when covering the legal system, those aspects of contempt and so forth. So the future of journalism, well, it could be argued that the future of journalism is in the hands of many of our students, in the hands of many of inter-uni students when we're talking about smartphones. The apps that are now available on smartphones allow you to be a citizen journalist as quickly as any journalist wandering around with an HD camera and a tripod. Smartphones shoot HD pictures, they provide the capacity to edit, they provide the capacity to take a story from happening in front of you to broadcasting it live, to quickly turning it around and publishing it on a website or even adding it to a blog or something along those lines. So look, the future of journalism, love it or hate it, is potentially getting smaller in terms of the digital capacity that's being found in the hands of reporters, but the quality is what will end up being the judge and jury of the future of journalism. If content production and the need for content production, the need to fill an internet space overrides the need to produce quality journalism, then we'll all be thinking about where we're at and where journalism is at and where it's going. I, for one, think that the mobile journalist is a powerful creation, but it's one that also needs to be needs to keep in mind the idea that those basic tenets of journalism remain important. The inquisitive mind, the ability to ask the key questions, and the ability to carry out a conversation and be able to turn that conversation into a story that other people may either want to read, listen to, or watch. Thank you.